On today's World Insight, Beijing rolls out the red carpet for the Global Trade and Investment Promotion Summit 2025, with the plenary session taking up empowering global industrial and supply chains, digital intelligence for security, stability, and collaboration. Listen to diverse voices of business and tech leaders. In tonight's panel, Ren Hongbin, the chairman of the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade, Jack Perry, the chairman of the 48 Group and CEO of the London Export Corporation, Lo Kian Chuan, the chairman of the Malaysia-China Business Council, Michael Hart, the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in China, Remy Paul, president of the French Chamber of Commerce and Industry in China, Martin Hoffmann, the chairperson of the German Chamber of Commerce in China and executive vice president and board of management of Volkswagen China, Vaughn Barber, the chair of the China-Australia Chamber of Commerce and co-founder and director of the Arafura Strategic Advisory, and Simon Lichtenberg, the Old China founding chairman of the Danish Chamber of Commerce in China, who's also the founder and CEO of the Trayton Group.
Chairman Ren, would you like to share with us your basic understanding of this topic, and why would you invite all your colleagues to be on the stage on this topic? Thank you.
中国呢也始终把维护
China has always put it on the top of the agenda to make global industrial and supply chains the public good. Chinese President Xi Jinping has pointed out that China should deepen its participation in international cooperation in this field on the basis of keeping the stability of its own industrial and supply chains. Currently, unilateralism and protectionism are rising. The world has entered a new period of turbulence. At this time, I think it's more necessary for our global business community and associations to work together to build a safe, stable, unimpeded, efficient, open, inclusive, mutually beneficial, and win-win global industrial chain and supply chains. Practice has repeatedly proven that there's no way out of decoupling, and there's no winner in the trade war. Any man-made destruction of the international industrial division can only hinder the development of the world economy and harm the well-being of people in all countries.
So I would love to have a reality check from every one of you from very different parts of the world.
I think as reality goes, when tariffs are put in place, there's problems because people can't afford to purchase. I mean, it goes all the way down the chain. I mean, as you can see at the moment, it's caused, as Chairman Ren just said, huge instability. And as businesses, we look 10, 15, 20 years ahead. We can't look for 90 days. We can't look for 10 days. We have to look really far ahead to see how we can plan out. And right now, we're having a worry where petroleum companies aren't buying cargo because there's not enough storage facility because everyone's worried that they can do. I mean, if you look at the logistics side of it, we have AI that's supporting logistics in a whole new way. From the UK standpoint, I think we're quite far behind in logistics, actually. When I walk around in China, I see warehouses that are fully automotive. The automation is unbelievable. And in the UK, actually, only the top companies can afford to do that.
So supply chain resilience is critical for sustainable growth, business stability, safety, and national security. So building a robust supply chain helps to ensure a nation's ability to respond to crisis and maintain its economic independence.
U.S. and China have traded together. China has been an important sourcing market, important supply chain market for the United States. And we saw earlier this year how it worked. And then we saw how it's not working. And now that we're at a truce, we can see how hopefully it's restarting again. So I think it's been an important reality check to all of us about how tied together the U.S. and China and the rest of the world are. I think you could say The benefits of a globally connected supply chain are huge. President Trump was elected by people who felt that they haven't benefited as much. And so I'm very pleased to see just about 10 days ago that some experts from China and some experts from the US had some very good discussions in Switzerland. And I'm hopeful that we will continue to be able to come to an agreement and we will see trade flowing again. But I will agree with the speakers who've talked so far. Business needs stability, supply chains need resilience, and that's a way for us all to benefit together. And I think we can talk more about this, but we've just been reminded recently about how important supply chains are and what happens when they're not working well.
Well, we underwent a certain number of crises, as we saw, COVID, now trade war, geopolitical confrontation, that made obvious certain weaknesses and certain over-dependencies and weaknesses, I was saying, in the logistical chain. So the first thing is that we need to correct those disbalances. Second thing, as a French chairman of the French Chamber of Commerce, we have 1,700 members, and none of them have withdrawn from China, which means that although we have all those issues, although we have all those disbalances, we're still there and we're still eager on working with China. And the third thing, I think Chinese people know more than any other people on that planet that, and they have that in their language, that crisis is also bringing opportunities. And we see now the opportunities, especially on the high technology. And this high technology is everywhere in improving our industrial tools and also improving the logistical and the way, as we said, we predict the way we use tools like artificial intelligence, like radio frequencies.
Companies from us, they are managing realities at the moment. They're managing realities like tariffs, but they're also seeing opportunities. And I think looking into this, I think a very prominent phenomenon in the market is the localization wave we can see. With the new innovations coming in R&D, we see that they continue in investments into R&D, into innovation, because China is also an innovative leader. So there is no other opportunity. So the question which is in the reality now to be answered is how good is the framework to secure this kind of investments on a long run, because this is where decisions are made. So I'm looking into this localization wave, which we call localization 3.0, in a way which builds a totally new setup of supply chain, which is an intelligent supply chain and driven by innovation. And this will be for the next couple of years, I think, decisive how this progress.
Last week, following a resounding victory, the new, or the Albanese-led Labour government was elected, and the Trade Minister sent a very clear message. He said, and I'm quoting, "We don't want to do less business with China. We want to do more business with China. We'll make decisions about how we continue to engage with China based on our national interests and not what the Americans may or may not want." And that's consistent with the attitude of Australian companies that are very committed to the China market. A recent survey that we've done shows that 70% of Australian firms see China as a top investment priority, and over half have plans to expand their investment here. While, of course, many firms are exploring increasing their diversification, one respondent to that survey said it well. We're being pushed to diversify, but China's opportunities are still too good to ignore. When we talk about safer and more stable supply chains, I don't think we can only focus on trade. This relates a little bit to what Mr. Hongbin just said. Trade certainly opens up markets, but investing in local infrastructure, production, and logistics reduces risks and strengthens supply chains.
First of all, we're talking about global trade and supply chains, and it seems like it's going backwards. It's not globalizing, it's anti-globalizing. It's protectivism that is happening a lot, and that is hurtful for all of us. So I think the promotion of international trade, which is Chairman Ren's job, is more important than ever. It may be that the current tariffs have come down from the US, but it's still at 30%. And don't forget, there was 25% tariffs from the first round. So in our case, in the company that I'm running, we have 55% tariffs on the US still. And what I want to, as a small country, I also want to put a vote in for the small companies, because you have big companies that can move things around. If you're Apple, you can move your production to India or somewhere else. If you're a small producer in China, you can move it nowhere. You're stuck.
I would like to start from Mr. Hart. Michael, I know you're back from the door knocks that is being conducted every year in Washington, D.C. Maybe you can help us to understand what is your takeaway from that brief trip, particularly with an important message about how can we, the rest of the world, understand what is going on between China and the United States, especially understand this tariff war apparently going on with one country against the rest of the world, as some analysts suggested.
It's very clear that the United States is a global trading power, and that the vast majority of U.S. large companies do trade globally. And again, I see many of them here, and I know some will speak later today. So I should say that we do represent the companies that believe the trade is a powerful and positive area. I do think one of the things that in the United States that we heard a lot last week was about key technologies. AI, we've heard some already today, is a technology where the U.S. is doing work, where China is doing work, and where we need, hopefully, to work together. But it is very complicated, right? So AI is going to impact many industries. There are also a lot of technologies that play the role in commerce, but also play the role in, for example, defense industries. And this is a complicated area that we need to all think about. There are areas where we've had traditional strengths. So, for example, my German friend on the right, where German autos have been leaders globally for a long time, and hopefully will continue to be. But I think all of these areas where China has made great innovations. Our message last week in Washington, D.C. was that, number one, even if the Chinese economy grows by only 3% for the next 10 years, it's still a massive amount of growth, and we want to make sure that U.S. companies and others participate in this growth. Number two, innovation will continue in China, and we want to be able to see it, and we want to be able to participate in it. And maybe your next global competitor will come out of China, but maybe your next global partner will come out of China. And so it's certainly important to participate. And the third one is important to participate in this market, because if U.S. companies were to withdraw, we would not be able to see the great growth in China. And so again, the companies that I represent, number one, hope to participate and lead in certain industries, but we certainly want to participate and be here. And so this is partially about the supply chain. It's also about the information space and about the digital flows that go back and forth. And so I think China, as currently the number 2 global economy in the world, and at some stage probably certainly the number 1, American companies want to continue to participate in this market. And again, our political leaders have different views about that, but American business will continue to participate in China and take advantage of the supply chains and manufacturing base as well as the consumer base. So,
Jack.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Michael because it's not Michael's decisions what he's doing at the moment, but it is America's. And the truth is that causes huge problems for businesses, and that is causing ginormous financial restraint on people in this room and companies in this room, and that affects everyone, and that really hurts everyone. And we can't continue to be able to allow that to happen. Right now, there's a lot of companies really having to not continue their business because of this. It's really causing huge issues. So it's fun to have some nice conversation up here, but really it's not a good idea. I think when you're looking in AI at the moment, that's an area where we can work together. I think you're talking about siloed data, you're talking about expertise. There's experts in this room, there's experts at home watching this. They can come to China, you can work on product here, take finished models, take them back to America, the UK, wherever it may be. But let's work together, because not allowing people and experts to work together causes huge problems. And right now, the supply chains and trade is in a bad problem, and it needs to be fixed, so it's no laughing matter.
Tell us more about your thoughts on this, please.
Australia has a small population. Our attitude towards collaborating with China is one of partnership that someone's mentioned, but also learning from areas where China is far ahead of where we are and applying those appropriately. I'm reasonably optimistic that with the majority that the elected government has, that there'll be more openness, more boldness in being able to explore some of the ways in which we can bring China's solutions to an Australian context.
I want to go to immediate left. Martin, you are not only the head of the chamber, but also you yourself in the automotive industry. So when we are talking about supply chain, it's right to your heart, I guess. Tell us more about how do you see in the automotive industry, just as a case study, what we talk about can become reality. In other words, how can you figure out solutions? Well, the challenges are paramount, as we all recognize.
One of the best practices to utilize, let's say, the innovation part is going into partnerships. I think one of the number one strategies we can observe with, I think, across all member states of the European Union, but also especially for Germany and in the automotive industry, they're looking for partnerships. And not the classical partnerships like the joint venture to produce, but it's also upgrading in terms of going into R&D partnerships when it comes to the ecosystem for self and autonomous driving cars, for ADAS system, for software stacks, for artificial intelligence around this digital twin opportunity to basically test and drive and put releases much quicker in place. So I think China teaches us at that moment also which kind of speed you basically deploy certain kind of innovation into practice and into the markets. On the other side as well is you need this kind of talent development as well, because we are talking about a very special field, and even we have a lot of, let's say, graduates, several millions. The specialized technology which we are talking about here, when we're talking about AI, IoT, when we are talking about things, the talents there are not yet at that level and at that scale what is needed, not in China and not in other parts of the world. So at the moment we have a very specialized development, and I think key for trade and investment in the future is first partnerships, and the second thing also talent development, which catches up and brings young people exactly to this kind of level to cope with the demands which we are bringing as companies to the market.
And Remy, your thoughts?
It was very interesting to see some companies trying to build resiliency by developing new products, using new technologies. Lack of predictability affecting actual logistical chain is very bad. So you need to find tools. The same way you have some companies developing what we call the digital twins. Digital twins is something that allows you to go on working on some innovative products without being dependent on the logistical chain, without being dependent on exchanging between laboratories, between R&D, physical prototypes. So we must not forget that globalization was built on a tendency to unify standards, and that is something that we are very much concerned now, because this is, when we're talking about AI, there will be also some standards, some regulatory standards, and we certainly need, if we want to go on with the same dynamics that we've known for the past 30 years, we need to keep on aligning the standards in order to build this common world.
Because of the current geopolitical situation, a lot of companies are maybe forced to look at China for China, which is in fact for many Danish companies, there's a lot of companies that used to export, and now they're mostly doing things for the China market, which is a great opportunity. But it's a pity, because the manufacturing power of China is great, and in many industries, some of the best in the world. And that is, you can say, a waste of global value to not use it. And if you take an example like our product, which is furniture, and it's highly automated in China. The quality is very high. The supply chains, it's a lot of components. They're all very nearby. It's very fast. It's really smooth, and the logistics network is fantastic. And we are forced to, open a factory in Vietnam and in Mexico and other places, which in order to be able to service the U.S. market. But it's actually more expensive to produce in Vietnam. So it's not conducive to the end consumer. And it's not why, if you have such a well-functioning Chinese manufacturing system, and there's no real replacement, at least in certain products, why do you have to push it somewhere else?
This round of supply chain, value chain change means very different things. such as Malaysia, you see some shifts and therefore new opportunities for Malaysia as a result of the latest change. But you also see bigger challenges as a result. So how do you see this very different sides of the same story?
Malaysia play a very crucial role in the global semiconductor supply chain, particularly in assembly, testing, and packaging. Under the National Semiconductor Strategy, Malaysia would strengthen partnership with semiconductor giants such as Intel, AMD, Texas Instruments, and ARM Holding to develop its front-end chip design capabilities and establish R&D center. In addition, e-commerce giant and logistic provider like Alibaba and Amazon, they have established regional distribution center in Malaysia to optimize their supply chain across Southeast Asia.
Jack, you earlier promised me to provide your own solutions. As we know in the business community, national security is a thing that we all respect. But at the same time, the spillover effect and the exaggeration, lack of specific borders of this phrase and this concept is also hurting business worldwide.
Well, when it comes to the ethics or the legal framework, actually that helps businesses. The more we know, then the more you can stay within the lines. That's how we can play. That makes it way easier. I think those are two areas that are key right now. If you look at the artificial intelligence, it's a baby. No one really knows what it is. I think that, even experts. So we all need to work together to find the experts and put them in a room and say, please help us find the solutions, because there's not many, because it's so new. So when you talked about R&D, I fully support that. I think we have a company here called Octopus Energy that are looking here to develop in China, but they're not saying, here, we've got a finished solution. They're looking to work. They're looking to learn from other companies. Those things are key. We need to be able to say, okay, we might know and we might not know.
And working together is so important. Mr. Ren, Chairman, the other gentleman mentioned quite a number of things that can be termed as part of the solution. For example, they talk about the new technologies that could help and innovation, R&D that could help in this complicated process when a lot of things are confusing. And they also talk about partnerships, talents. All these could help. But to you, what really could help?
所以我觉得这里面
I think it's very important to learn from history. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, and I think we should cherish 80 years of peace. After the war, many international organizations were established, including the WTO, which has played an important role here, because it has established a rule-based, open, transparent, fair, and non-discriminatory multilateral trading system for everyone. Therefore, under this trading system, everyone has common principles. So I think the first thing is that we must abide by the principles. Whether we are discussing diversification, AI, digital empowerment, low carbon and green, we still need to return to the basics. We have always talked about not forgetting our original intention and the path we came from. I think this is fundamental. On this basis, we can discuss how to resolve the differences between countries and find a path of cooperation. Secondly, I think we need to have an open attitude. We should open actively and find our comparative advantages. Each country should make use of its own comparative advantages to conduct trade and investment so as to achieve maximum benefits. I think this is the key. At the same time, I think China also attaches great importance to foreign investment. Investing in China is investing in the future. I think China should use its own openness and its large market to cope with external challenges. And at the same time, we should use our own openness, our complete industrial system, to provide global enterprises more certainty, more stability, and opportunities to overcome current challenges.
Not only principle, actions, sir. So what about your action?
The China International Supply Chain Expo is highly relevant to our theme today. It is the world's first expo dedicated to showcasing the underlying logic of supply chains. It represents a comprehensive supply chain ecosystem Within this ecosystem, Chinese and international enterprises of all sizes come together, fostering meaningful interactions and collaboration. I believe that beyond trade and investment, we must pursue a global cooperation across the entire industrial chain. Only through deep interaction of our industrial and supply chains can we achieve shared development in the most secure and sustainable way.
Now, what about actions coming from our other colleagues? As you are representing your chamber, how are business leaders like you going to speak out, have the courage to speak out, and also to encourage the best practices? I would love to know.
So I think I very much echo what Chairman Ren is saying about predictability. Predictability is, I mean, nobody can plan in the current environment. It's very, very hard. So I would also highly advocate our dear friend, American friend, to see if we can make a really good deal between China and US on the trade issue. But I think no matter whether the governments can agree or not agree, I think we, all of us, have a big responsibility to do our part. If governments can't agree, companies can work together in so many ways.
We are here to build bridges in a period where people try to build walls. But I don't want to support too much my American friend, but I need to come to his support like Lafayette did back in the days. We must not make the mistakes to forget that Mr. Trump has been elected by a majority of people, and those people, they won't disappear in 4 years. And it's the same kind of issue that we have in Europe. And it is essential to make them understand, to make the public opinion understand the necessity of those bridges between China and Europe and the United States.
Well, in terms of action, and particularly to today's supply chain conference, AmCham China will have a booth at the supply chain conference. And so AmCham China will continue to be a platform for the voice of American business. And I think to Remy's point, we'll also...
Within 90 days and beyond.
Within 90 days. And I think actually our slogan is 下一个100年. So we were formed in China over 100 years ago, and we'll continue for the next 100 years, I believe, to trade with China through thick and thin and challenges. And I'm happy that we have Chairman Ren as a partner for us to have both positive and challenging discussions because trade is important and supply chains are important.
The 48 Group were the first organization to come to China in 1953, known as the Icebreakers, and the Icebreaker Mission, led by my grandfather, Jack Perry Sr. That was not easy. That was courageous behavior, and that was to help other UK businesses. As the leader of an organization, you want to know that they're working hard. We talk about action, but action is actually going forward and getting something done. So not everyone's going to like you if you want to do that. So we're here to support our companies, and we do so.
The nature remains the same. And Mr. Ren, one word or two from you?
Mr.
Perry shared that in 1953, his grandfather came to China and signed the first trade agreement worth £30 million between China and the West, in cooperation with the CCPIT. This historic agreement served as an icebreaker, making the beginning of trade relations between China and the West through the joint effort of the CCPIT and the 48 Group Club. Today, the CCPIT remains committed to serving as a bridge between Chinese enterprises and businesses around the world. We are ready to once again break the ice. In this new era, building bridges between China and other nations and broader fields of collaboration. Through shared efforts, we can overcome the challenges we face today.
On the same boat, I guess we are all partners. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your input and insight. Thank you, appreciate it. And also CCPIT for this wonderful session.